with all of your expertise, by the way, in use of force, and believe me, I say that in the most sarcastic way possible, with all of your expertise, yeah, tell us again how you should boycott yourselves in the whole season while ignoring the death camps in China. Go ahead, boycott your whole league. Nobody cares. So new facts have emerged in the use of force incident against Jacob Blake in Wisconsin. The shooting you've heard about that has led to multiple nights of rioting, death in the streets. You know that. You know, when people talk about law and order, they understand the law part. But as I said the other day, they often neglect the order part. What does order mean? They're not talking about order like paint by numbers. They're talking about order. Order is process. An orderly society has a process to handle grievances, to handle violations of the law, to handle violations of your civil rights. We have that in the United States. Luckily, we have very good policing here, the best in the world in the United States, but errors are tragically made. Sometimes criminality takes place. It's not an error. Sometimes it's outright criminal. We've had incidents with policing that have involved substantial criminality. Unfortunately, I worked in the 7-5 precinct where they had a whole corruption ring they broke up before I got there. Thankfully, in the United States, policing is excellent. That's relatively rare. But we have a process. So when people say law and order, what they mean by order is they mean a process. So the process when someone like Jacob Blake is shot by police officers in an incident is to wait for the information to come out in a process, an investigative, deliberative, sane, rational process, find out what the facts are. God forbid, leftists, we don't want the facts out there. And then when we have a set of facts, subject it to another set of processes, a fact-finding process, then an administrative process within the police department. Here are our documented use of force rules. Were those rules followed? Again, order, process. If they weren't followed, then there will be sanctions, either a termination or some punishment from the administrative police entity. If it's more severe than an administrative violation and there's potential criminality, alleged criminality, process, then we will have investigators, as they are, looking into it in Wisconsin to determine if the act was not just an administrative violation, but potentially a criminal one. It's what's happening now. When you forfeit order and process and you become the NBA, who doesn't really care at all about Uyghur death camps in China, forced abortions and sterilizations, that kind of stuff, they don't want to talk about that. They want to kneel for the American flag because of a shooting in Wisconsin they don't even have any of the facts yet on. But maybe it's a good idea to take a step back and allow order and process to play out. Why do we do that? Because while the city of Wisconsin, Kenosha, Wisconsin, or the town was burning to the ground, in many cases, literally, new facts came out, which if you would have allowed the order part of process and the law and order axiom to follow through, you may not have embarrassed yourself by coming out and insisting again that the police officers involved were murderers without any evidence to suggest that is in fact true. Well, what's come out? This is one of the scenarios where I use the Daily Mail because they have the longest headlines ever, but in this case, the headline tells the whole story. So be in the show notes. UK Daily Mail, Wisconsin Attorney General reveals police recovered a knife from the driver's side floor of Jacob Blake's car, and says one cop shot him 7 times. They responded to a 911 call from Blake's girlfriend. Now, we're not going to make the mistake. Leftist media hacks, racial instigators, and clueless NBA morons who can't even effectively boycott themselves while they ignore Chinese death camps. We're not going to make that mistake and say, oh, nothing was done wrong here. Let's forget it. No. I don't know that. I do know I'm waiting to hear more facts on the case because the video is not clear, unlike other cases where the video has been painfully clear. The video spoke for itself in many cases. Regardless of the background scenario, the video told most of the story you needed. The video doesn't tell this story. The video we've seen of the shooting of Jacob Blake is taken from a distance, and you can't see inside the car, where it now appears, according to the Attorney General of Wisconsin and the Daily Mail's subsequent reporting, that Jacob Blake may have been reaching for a knife, or there may have been a weapon there, a knife on the floorboard. I'll be on Jesse Waters' show discussing this this weekend. Now, again, let's do facts and process. So, ladies and gentlemen, on the process side, which matters because I believe in law and order, not media hysteria like these lunatics who want to see the country burned to the ground. When you're dealing with a use of force incident, every police officer has it tailored slightly differently to its police department's rules, but the general rule of use of force incidents using deadly force is this. And by the way, so we can establish bona fides here, because I know there's some moron, 19-year-old Media Matters lunatic watching this who's sitting in his mama's basement with a Snuggie, who hasn't left his basement in 7 years and probably hasn't shaved either. I actually taught a lot of this stuff in the Secret Service Academy and was a police officer myself. And I went through the New York City Police Academy twice, once as a cadet and once as a recruit, just establishing bona fides there. I know I don't have the knowledge you do playing your video games in your mama's basement. I get that. But maybe, just maybe, you'll allow us to talk. We just know a little bit, just tiny. The only question when a deadly use of force is involved, on the administrative side, in other words, did the police officer obey the use of force guidelines he was taught, is generally this. Does the police officer have a reasonable, articulable belief that a serious physical injury or death was about to be caused to himself or others when he used deadly force? Can he reasonably state that he used deadly force and articulate why? Reasonable and articulable for the Media Matters type listening, because I know they have to get dictionaries and thesauruses out to understand basic English. Can he reasonably articulate that he believed the subject was about to cause a serious physical injury or death to the officer or someone else? Now, if the story and the reporting by the Daily Mail turns out to be true, that there was a knife on the floor, we will wait for the facts, unlike media lunatics. You have a number of things, ladies and gentlemen, that may indicate that this use of force, however tragic, and they are, may have been administratively and legally justified. We will see. What are those additional facts? The subject had a criminal history. Oh, that doesn't matter. No, folks, it does. If you are a reasonable person is trying to articulate why you may think a person might harm them during an interaction seriously or kill them, what they've done in the past, if you're aware of it, matters. Now, why would the police officers be aware of this? You think it's just possible when they got the 911 call, which they did, and they ran the name of the subject, that they saw he had a criminal history? I'm just asking questions. Fact-finding stuff. Don't dare call me a journalist. That's an insult. But we do facts here. That's why I don't want you to call me a journalist, because they don't actually do that stuff. You think that might be reasonable and articulable, that you thought he might hurt you because he had a criminal history in the past? Again, only if you're doing facts. You think the fact that there was a 911 call matters? If you're a leftist, no, but if you're a sane person, of course that matters. The police officer in Wisconsin didn't just find Jacob Blake on the street. This wasn't a random car stop. They were responding to a request for help. They wanted Blake out of their house, the people who called. You think that matters when you're reasonably trying to articulate why you think your life is in danger? Again, only if you're a sane person, not if you're a leftist or a journalist. You may say, well, that sounds like enough right there, at least to reasonably articulate why you think your life was in danger. Maybe not the engagement with the firearm. Oh, there's more. You now have a non-compliant subject who will not follow any commands, who they've already tased, and that hadn't worked. So they've used the proper escalation of force too. Verbal commands, hands-on, taser, God forbid, deadly force if warranted. They didn't jump to the firearm. This isn't Tombstone. Nobody pulled some kind of OK Corral shooting incident on them. They clearly escalated. You have a non-compliant subject, doesn't respond to verbal commands, doesn't respond to physical grabbing and restraining, doesn't respond to a taser, and then keeps walking towards a vehicle where it's alleged there's a knife on the floor. But again, NBA guys, with all of your expertise, by the way, in use of force, and believe me, I say that in the most sarcastic way possible, with all of your expertise, yeah, tell us again how you should boycott yourselves in the whole season while ignoring the death camps in China. Go ahead, boycott your whole league. Nobody cares.
You just heard Dan Bongino.